This is lesson 1.1 in elementary algebra, variable symbols in the order of operations. And we're going to cruise pretty fast through this particular lesson in the next few. In fact, the whole first chapter is just called the basics. And since you've had Algebra 1, you've already done all of this. So this is just some review to get you started. I'm just going to jump all the way up to the order of operations and start with example 8. And one of the things that you learned when you were doing algebra is PEMDAS. And it used to be, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or please electrocute my dear Aunt Sally, or please execute my dear Aunt Sally, depending on how morbid you are. But anymore, we just use the name PEMDAS. And what that means is we do everything we can that are in the parentheses, if there are any. Then we do exponents. Then we do the multiplication or the division from left to right. Doesn't matter which one you do, but you usually do the multiplication first. But we'll try a couple that do both, and then we'll go from there. Then you do the addition and subtraction from left to right. It doesn't have to be all the addition, then the subtraction. You can do the addition, and then, oh, there's a subtraction, and do that, and then another addition. As long as you do addition or subtraction from left to right, you do that last. So let's get started with example 8. So example 8, letter A, says 5 plus 8 times 2, and if you look at PEMDAS, it says do the multiplication first, so we're going to do 5 plus 16 and give us 21. Now if we did the other way, if we did the addition first, we'd get 5 plus 8 is 13 times 2 is 26. So how did they know which of those two is right? Well, back in the olden days when people first started doing math, they had to come up with some rules. And basically they're kind of like grammar rules, that you have to follow this procedure so that when it's written a certain way, everybody will get the right answer. So it's not that one way is necessarily right over the other way, it's just this way is the way that mathematicians from ages past have decided that they're going to order things so that everybody gets the right answer, which means all of your math problems are going to be ordered a certain way so that you do get the right answer. So that's really all there is to it, as far as that's why they use PEMDAS, is somebody just decided this was going to be the order that we do those. So let's look at B. 12 divided by 4 times 2. So I do 12 divided by 4 is 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? So that's all there is to that. Look at C. Now we've got some braces and brackets and parentheses and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and write that out. 6 plus 3 times 4 parenthesis brace. All right, so what you do when you're given multiple parentheses like this, like one inside another, is you start on the innermost parenthesis. So we're going to start and do what we can inside this parenthesis, and I'm going to write everything else as is. And I know you look at that and go, oh my gosh, really? You're wasting your time doing all that writing when I can do it in my head? Yes, but I'm a math teacher, so apparently I did it right a long time ago. And if you don't write everything out, it's really easy to make silly mistakes. So let's look at this. We do our multiplication first. So we get 12, we add 6, and we get 18. Then we keep going. 2, and then 5 plus, we do our multiplication next. Oops. And then we add what's in the parentheses, because normally, see, when you look up here, it says do the multiplication before your addition, except if you're doing the parentheses first, and that's what we're doing here is the parentheses. So we're going to make that a 41, and that gives me an 82. All right, so let's look at letter, we just did C, let's do D. All right, D says 10 plus 12 divided by 4 plus 2 times 3. So if you look at PEMDAS and you follow it to the T, it says you're going to do your multiplication before the division. But remember what I said, multiplication or division from left to right. So we're going to do our 10 plus 12 divided by 4 is 3 plus 2 times 3 is 6. So I just did multiplication and division from left to right, and I did them both in the same step, which is fine. So now I've just got three numbers to add together, and I get 19 for an answer. All right, last one is e2 to the fourth plus 3 cubed divided by 9 minus 4 squared. And we're going to do our exponents first. So we get 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, divided by 9 minus 16. So now we're going to do our division. According to PEMDAS, that's what you do. So I have 16 plus 3 minus 16 gives me 3. I am assuming you know how to read tables and bar charts, so I'm going to just kind of skip over that and let you do that in homework, and if you have some questions you can always get a hold of me with that. But I want to look at the geometry, and we're going to look at area and perimeter of several objects here. This table here is from your book, and it gives you how to find the perimeter. And if you remember, perimeter is if you're building a fence around this object, adding up all the sides. So all the sides added up are going to give you the perimeter, or count the number of sides if they're the same length and multiply by 4. Perimeter of this rectangle, of really any rectangle, is the length added and the width added. But since I have two widths, I can put 2w. Two lengths, I can put 2l and add those two together. The perimeter of a rectangle or a triangle is the same thing, the length of A plus the length of B plus the length of C. And then we get into area. So let's start over here with area. Area is, if this was a yard, the amount of grass you can plant in here. An area is two-dimensional. It means you're going to multiply two numbers together, two dimensions, in order to get the area, and that's how much room this is going to take up. And it's always written in like square inches, square feet, something like that. In fact, if this were 32 square feet, we would write it as feet with an exponent of 2. That's the symbol for square feet. It's the same thing for like square yards, square inches, etc. Alright, so when we're looking at the area of a square, it's going to be s squared. It's going to be this times this. S times s, and s times s is s squared. Area of any other rectangle that's not a square, because the lengths opposite each other are the same and the widths opposite each other are the same, but the length and the width are not the same. So we have to take the length of the length, we have to take the length times the width. That'll give us the area. The area of a triangle, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. The area of a triangle, because a triangle actually makes and I'm making this a bad one, a parallelogram like that. It's actually length times width, but since it's only half of one, we take half of the length times width, and are then able to find the area. So now this is another key part here, and I'll put this in red here. We've got the base times the height. This is the height. The height of a triangle is always a 90-degree angle to the base. C is not the height, A is not the height. Those are called slant heights, but we aren't into that yet. So when you find the area of a triangle, it's always the base times the distance from the base perpendicular or at a 90-degree angle to the top of the triangle. And sometimes you're going to have to find that on your own using Pythagorean theorem. But I don't think they'll make you do that in this section 1.1.